An alternative school program is ending after 2 decades. That's how long Omaha Public Schools and UNO have partnered together for the middle college program. The purpose was to give students an opportunity to finish high school and transition to college. 6 News producer Roger Hamer is on your side with more.
Past and current students asked the Omaha Public School Board Monday night why they would eliminate a program they see as successful.
Transferring to this program was a lifeline for me. My transcript shows me failing almost every class up until the transfer, and it is quite a dichotomy sitting next to my list of all A's from the program.
Why can't you let us finish our school career with the amazing teachers, the free ACT prep and the college prep, and the 100% college acceptance rate this program had?
I have seen how this program has helped so many others. Students that may have struggled in traditional high schools due to several reasons such as violence, poor connections, or mental and physical issues.
Board member Bree Full, herself a product of alternative schooling, agreed with the students.
I am disappointed to hear that the program is discontinuing.
They spoke deeply from the heart. They spoke so clearly about what the program meant to them and how it helped to shape and form their lives. So yes, I was present, listening, and taking some notes.
But nothing's going to change?
At this point, this is the conclusion of the program will happen at the end of the school year.
Officials at both UNO and OPS say after 20 years the middle college program was successful, but is now somewhat outdated and efforts need to be refocused on helping even more students.
At this point, our dual enrollment between just UNO and OPS, we have over 2,700 students in every OPS high school that are enrolled in college courses with us. And so continuous improvement, always looking to see, is this program meeting the needs of the learners who are in it, and can we meet the needs of more learners?
Susan Christofferson with OPS says the district is working with the 40 students and their families, studying other options to maintain that academic track. So where do these kids go from here?
So would they go back to their home schools?
That is one of the options if they should choose to do that. I think it's thinking about what are some of the programs that are being offered at their school that maybe they weren't aware of. How do we make them aware of it? If that's not the right fit, what might be some other considerations to think about as far as programming that we have.
On your side, Roger Hamer, WOWT 6 News.
All of the students in the middle college program are early enrollees at UNO. OPS is looking at ways to keep those students together through high school graduation.